focus.
One thing that I do not have in common with many of the other people who do this is I am not currently a professional French horn player. I'm a band director, and so I come about this from a little bit different perspective than a lot of the other people. And I found out I was doing this about 2 weeks ago, and so I've had to kind of go through the process that you're going to have to go through learning these. And this is not something that I've been working on for a year, and so my goal today is to try to give you some little tricks and techniques to help you not only become better at these etudes, but become better horn players in general. So first of all, I included on the handout, I hope you got the handout, the actual tempos and errata that is listed on the ATSSB website, and then the etudes themselves. And so let me talk just a little bit about each of these etudes. Now first of all, the first one, number 46, the eighth note gets the beat. And so when you're setting your tempo, yeah, if you need handouts, feel free, go grab them. There should be plenty. And the etudes are on the handout. So okay, so I got my metronome here. So if I'm going to set the tempo at I put it on 68, which is the bottom end of the tempo, and I do think, just like the trombone guy said, I think that the tempos are really fast, and I'm not sure that, I don't think that you have to stay there. Especially on this first one. So here's 68, and if the eighth note's going to get the beat, then all of those 16th notes are just going to feel like eighth notes, right? And so I'm going to start just the beginning here so you can feel kind of how the tempo works, and then I'll talk a little bit more. And these etudes, I've been playing these since I was in college, and I never would have learned it that fast. When I just given the Coprosh book, there's no tempo markings in the Coprosh book. I never would have played it that fast. And so I just think it's just too rushed. And so when you're putting your tempos together, just kind of take it with a grain of salt. Okay, so some of the places in here are quite technical, like the last line, the measures like 18, 19, 20. You're probably going to want to maybe even slow it down to where the 16th note gets the beat, so that you can read those a little bit better. And I wish I had this up on a PowerPoint, but one of the ways I like to teach my students when they're reading something where the eighth note gets the beat, I take a piece of paper and I cover up one beam, and all of a sudden it makes, do you understand what I'm saying by that? It makes it not look so intimidating, because I don't know about you, but when I see a bunch of 30-second notes on a piece of paper, my heart beats just a little bit faster. And so, but they're really not that fast. And so if you'll take your piece of paper and cover up one beam, so then look, for example, at measure 7. So instead of being an eighth note and 4 30-second notes, then that just becomes a quarter note and 4 16th notes. 1, 2, E, and a piece of cake, right? That doesn't look quite so intimidating. My favorite saying is, how do you eat an elephant? One fork at a time, right? And so slow it down, make those little itty-bitty adjustments, and then it doesn't look quite so intimidating when you actually try to put it together. So when you turn your metronome on, when you very first start figuring it out, so let's look right at that measure right there. So here's the tempo that, according to ATSSB, it should be. Right, so I'm just going to slow it half that speed. So I can just slow it down, make the fingers a little bit more manageable if I need to do that. Okay? Then, moving on down. Okay, so my thoughts on this etude is, this is your chance to shine. This is the etude that you need to be musical on. Many students think that the technical etude is where the audition is won or lost. I totally disagree. Because as a judge, when I'm sitting in the room, I need you to do something to wake me up and tell me you're different. Because I've just heard this a bazillion times, and I want to know that you're special. And you're going to tell me you're special with this etude. I mean, I don't want to hear all the 16th notes as fast as you can possibly play them. That's not going to impress me as much as you being musical on this piece of music. And that's why I think the little bit slower tempo is going to help as well. So show off your musicality. Yeah, okay. Then the hardest part about this one, probably the skips. There are some large skips. So I've given you some little exercises to help you practice them. The first exercise is, I'm just going to get a copy of my, sorry. Okay, so the first exercise will help you with your low range. It'll help you with the skips. It's also just a really great warm-up. Okay, none of these exercises that I put on here are original. They're not mine. They are, stolen from 500 different places. I think this one's in the Art of French Horn Playing. I think it's also in the Doug Hill, whatever his warm-up books are, the warm-up and maintenance sessions. So this is just standard stuff. But, so working on that, look at that very first excerpt on the top line of the exercise at the bottom. And I marked that third valve in there. These are what I would call lip slur fingerings. You wouldn't normally finger a low E third, but I think it helps with lip slurs to make the lip slurs go a little bit better. And so now I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm going to tongue it. And it's a whole different ballgame when you tongue it, right? It's actually probably easier to slur it. Then, even staccato. What you're doing as you're working on those lower notes coming out is you're also working on your tongue placement, figuring out where your tongue needs to be for those lower notes. As you go lower, you cannot tongue a low C in the same place you can the middle C. You're going to have to make your tongue come more between your teeth to make that note come out. Otherwise, you're going to splee-ah the note every single time. Okay, so let your tongue come almost like you're tonguing on your lip for that low C. The tongue's going to come between your teeth to get that low C to come out cleanly. And that's what you're going to have to do for like measure 10 with that huge skip there. And if you'll think more about the skip from the middle C down to the low C in measure 10, don't worry about the skip from the low C up to the high E. You get a breath there, it's kind of like regrouping, right? So you don't have to worry about trying to make those giant jumps up, and the jumps down are always going to be easier anyway, okay? And so this is a good exercise, like I said, just to warm up the horn, get some basic fundamentals in, and it'll also help you kind of practice those skips. The second one there, I also recommend do it slurred, do it tongued. If you can't play a high C, then don't go all the way up to high C. Just chop off the top note and only go to G, or chop off the top two notes and only go to third space C. But it's a really good exercise. The first one, C, E, G, all the way up. The next one is just C and G, and then in octaves. And the better you get at doing those skips with the lip slurs, the easier this A2 is going to be. Okay? Let's see. What's next? The breaths. I think you should observe every single breath mark. I use every breath mark in this entire A2. The actual breath marks, the ones that look like a comma that we're used to seeing, those are, I would say, mandatory breath marks, ones that Philip Farkas thinks, Koprosh thinks will not work if you don't do it. The other little slashes are kind of optional breath marks. I take every single one of them, especially if you go at a little bit slower tempo, okay? Legato articulation throughout. There's one exception, like 18, 19, and 20. There are some staccato notes on those notes. You still don't want them to be choppy and short, super, super short. You just want them to be a little bit lighter, a little bit of lilt to them. And then, the lip trill. The trill in measure 4 should be a lip trill. It's not a valve trill. You could do it as a valve trill, but it's not going to sound good. It doesn't matter how many times you practice it, it's never going to sound good because you can't get your lip and your finger to make the trill happen at the same time. And essentially, if you could make the trill work with your valve, then you might as well do a lip trill anyway because that's what you're doing. So if I'm going to take the B flat, I'm going to trill from a B flat to a C. If I did that with my normal fingering, which would be trigger 1 to trigger open, this is what it sounded like. I don't really get there, right? Unless I go, and then it's really hard. So if I take off my trigger and do it with just my first valve, then I have my lip trill. Okay? Now on the second page, on the back, there's the bottom of the back. This is my all-time favorite exercise, and I attribute everything that I've ever been as a horn player to these two lines right here. And actually it's an entire sheet called Irwin Daily Drills. It's just a piece of paper. It's not a book. I have no idea where you would find it. I still have the same one that Dr. Cabot gave me when I was in high school. And measure 5, or number 5 there, is an excellent way to practice lip trills. All of these are really good, but that's a really good one for lip trills. And so if you'll just take it and start really slow, once again, F horn, no trigger at all. And then do that as you go down. And it takes time. I didn't get to be able to do that just because I picked up my horn one day and said I wanted to do it. I clearly remember when I was in high school sitting in a practice room for hours with the metronome, that box, silver box, and I would do very slowly, and then I would chunk it up, and I would do it again, and I would chunk it up, and I would do it again. But I figured out how to do lip trills in high school because my horn teacher thought it was important. And she said you need to be able to do it, because if you want to play Mozart, if you want to play these Kopras, etudes, anything you want to do, you're going to have to be able to do a lip trill. It's kind of one of the standard skills of a horn player. I can't tell you the number of even adult horn players that say, well, I can't do lip trills. Well, learn them. If you'll take the time, every single person can learn how to do a lip trill if you'll take the time to do it. Or you can just say, it's too hard, I'm not going to do it. Right? But if you want to be a horn player, you're going to have to do it. Because I'm sorry, every horn player at some point is going to have to play a Mozart horn concerto with a lip trill in it. And your judge at Solo and Ensemble is going to crucify you if you don't do it as a lip trill. So you might as well learn it now. Take this opportunity to learn your lip trill. The good news is it's not very long. All you have to do is a couple little wiggles and it'll sound fantastic. But do not use your valves because it won't sound good. Okay. Let's see what else I got for you on this one. I think that's pretty much it with this one. Yeah, and so my recommendation on this is just work on being musical. Learn it with a metronome first so that you make sure you're doing all the right rhythms, and then make sure that you're musical with it. Okay? So I'm going to play it just a smidge under tempo.